Good morning. Today, I want to focus on an important issue in our effort to combat gun violence and other similar crime. But before I get there, I want to mention our victory yesterday with regard to the implementation of the city's vaccine mandate. Yesterday, for the third time this month, our office secured a victory in court where a judge ruled again against a misguided effort to halt implementation of the city's vaccine mandate with regard to first responders. And in yesterday's case, which involved a lawsuit brought by a group called Firefighters for Freedom, the court was particularly blunt in discussing the emergency that we all confront in this city in turning back the effort by this group to halt the implementation of that mandate. And I want to say a couple of things. First of all, in that case, the court made a point that is very much at the center of my view of this, which is that the vaccine mandate for first responders is important because it keeps other first responders safe. After all, firefighters live in close quarters together. And it's also important because the public which comes in contact with first responders itself is safer when the vaccine mandate is adhered to. And I want to point out, independent of this lawsuit, how important it is for all Angelenos to get vaccinated. And if you're already vaccinated, be sure you get the booster. We owe that much to each other. And also, although it hasn't been reported, just a few hours after this court issued the ruling for us yesterday, the Firefighters Union, which independently had filed a lawsuit and which we had successfully prevented from getting a halt to the vaccine mandate earlier this month, the Firefighters Union dismissed its lawsuit. And I'm hopeful that will be assigned to others who represent first responders. Let's get on with protecting each other, protecting the public, and doing everything we can for the health and safety of the community we serve. Our first responders are very courageous. They're very brave. We owe them a lot. This is a moment for all of us to come together. Now, let me talk about the lawsuit that we've just filed in response to escalating violence that we've seen. And, I cannot overstate the importance of all of us finding every way we can to combat the escalating violence that we've seen in the city of Los Angeles. Violent crime, gun violence in particular, is spiking now. It's true in other cities across the country as well. And each of us needs to be finding as many strategies as we can to combat that escalating violence. It's essential to the people who live in the neighborhoods confronting that violence. And one tool that our office can employ is filing a lawsuit like I'm announcing we just did. This is a lawsuit that we filed against the operators of a 16-unit apartment building in South Los Angeles. We also named in the lawsuit as a defendant one of the residents of that apartment, whom we allege is a gang member who has a criminal history that includes gun violations. This is, I think, so important for all of us to agree to. No family should be subjected to the violence that we allege has been plaguing this community. This is a property, I want to point out, that is 500 feet, very close to a high school and a similar distance from a city recreation center. These are centers of community life where everyone deserves to be safe. And at the same time, we allege that this building has been an epicenter of gun and other related violent crime, and we aim to put a stop to it. As I mentioned, it's essential that we find every strategy we can to grapple with violence like this. Now, let me elaborate a little bit about what we allege has been happening at this location. Again, it's a 16-unit apartment building. I mentioned its location next to these sensitive sites, the school and the recreation center, which are very close. We allege this has been a hotbed of gang activity. It's a hangout for a notorious gang, the Primera Flats gang. and it's been a magnet for violent crime. And when I say that, I mean not only that we allege that gang members hang out there and make it a target for other gang members, but I want to point out that just since January, there have been 5 documented shootings and 4 gun possession arrests just in the last 11 months. And we suspect that the level of crime is actually higher than that because we know that neighbors in this community may be reluctant to report crime for fear of reprisal. Now, I mentioned earlier that one of the defendants in this case is an individual who lives at this location. At the moment, he is incarcerated. He's on parole for robbery, and prior to his incarceration, had been arrested at or around this property 3 times for gun-related offenses. Again, he lives in an apartment. Extended members of his family live in the building. We're concerned that those units are used as locations where gang members can stash their guns and evade law enforcement. So that's the scene that we allege is taking place at this location. In 2018, that defendant was arrested at the property, and he was arrested for a gun violation. And with escalating issues at that location, our office and LAPD met with the operators of the property to urge that a number of changes be made, physical changes at the location. And those changes included video cameras, more lighting, no trespassing signs, removing graffiti, a security company being put in place, steps like that. And for a couple years thereafter, the crime at the location appeared to be decreasing. But as I mentioned, this year, with those gun crimes that I alluded to, crime has been escalating. And so we allege that there need to be further steps taken to secure the safety of this community. Just in the past year, LAPD has been called to the property 9 times. Now, here's what we're seeking. We're seeking a court order and injunction that will require the operators of this property to put in place a gate with electronic access control, internet-connected video monitoring of the location, enhanced lighting at the location, a property management company and an on-site manager, written leases, house rules, tenant screenings, the hiring of a licensed security guard or guards. And we also are seeking the eviction of this individual who I mentioned in particular has been cited for a series of gun-related violations at this location and an order that would prevent him from returning to the location. That's in addition to the penalties that we're seeking in this case with regard to the operators of the property. This is part of a larger effort that my office has undertaken. Since I've been city attorney, we have filed 162 actions similar to this, secured well over 300 injunctions, and nearly $3 million in penalties and costs. And I want to end my presentation here before I say some words in Spanish by saying something else. I mentioned throughout my presentation earlier that there may have been many more crimes at this location, but community members may be reluctant to report it because of fear of reprisal. You can report if you live in a community plagued by violence that is tied to a particular location. You can report to my office anonymously. You can call us at 213-978-8340 or online. And I think it is so essential for each of us to step up and at least report these incidents so that my office can take the action that you deserve. So let me say a few words in Spanish, and then I'm happy to take questions. Hoy anuncio a la acción más reciente de mi oficina para luchar contra el aumento de violencia armada y otros delitos violentos. Una demanda contra la corporación, quien es el propietario de un complejo de apartamentos presuntamente plagado de delitos en el sur de Los Ángeles, y contra uno de sus inquilinos, un presunto miembro de la pandilla Primera Flats. La propiedad, un apartamento de uso mixto, se alega que es un centro de actividad de pandillas y es un imán para los delitos violentos, donde los miembros de la pandilla y sus asociados suelen reunirse regularmente, que tuvo 5 tiroteos documentados y 4 arrestos por posesión de armas en los últimos 11 meses. La cantidad de tiroteos y otros crímenes violentos en este edificio, ubicado a menos de 500 pies de la escuela secundaria Santee y del centro de recreación Trinity, probablemente sea aún más alto, porque sabemos que a veces la gente no reporta tiroteos de pandillas porque temen represalias. Ninguna familia debe ser sometida a la violencia continua que ha plagado a esta comunidad. Alegamos que esta propiedad, tan cerca de una escuela pública y de un centro recreativo de la ciudad, ha sido un epicentro de violencia armada y actividad de pandillas. Nuestro objetivo es ponerle fin. Con angelinos preocupados por la escalada de violencia, las acciones agresivas como esta son una parte importante de la restauración de la seguridad pública. Gracias. Okay, Rob, any questions?
No, we're all set.
Thank you very much. I want to thank our friends at LA City View Channel 35 for making it possible for us to convey this information to the public. Thank you. Happy holidays to everyone. On all these issues, let's work together to make our city safer and more secure. Thanks very much.